ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for YGAP's Elliot Costello.
I thank you all for your time, and it's so wonderful to be here. I do want to commence with a very quick story, a recent experience that I had in South Africa less than a fortnight ago. I was invited by the Branson School of Entrepreneurship to work alongside 15 emerging social entrepreneurs in Africa. And in doing so, meeting some of the most remarkable minds solving problems locally in their community, nationally across South Africa, but others with big visions for Pan-Africa. And we were taken to Ezemvelo Game Reserve, 2.5 hours northwest of Pretoria, the capital. And in our second night of this boot camp, we got to sit down and really get to know each other over a campfire. And one guy, Winston, leans forward, a big, strong, firm African guy from the Cape Coast of Africa, South Africa, leans forward and says, "Elliot, why is it you come to Africa?" And after 8 years of going to Africa, working with a number of communities across 5 or 6 different countries, this question caught me. I quickly thought about it and said, no matter what I can provide, Winston, it's what I learn. I come to Africa for real understanding of the power of communities. See, Winston, where I'm from in Melbourne, Australia, we tend to avoid perfect strangers. We get on a train and we avoid strangers. Buses and trams are the same. Don't come and talk to me. If they do sit next to you, you avoid them at all costs. You stand in an elevator and pull out that phone, check the weather, or pretend to send an SMS. See, Winston, we have this iconic dream of buying a house with a big backyard in Australia. And once we have that big backyard, we'll build a big fence too. An opportunity to avoid your next door neighbour. See, Winston, part of the problem of a breakdown of social structures, being religious institutions, sporting institutions, even schooling institutions, is we're becoming more isolated, more lonely, which is leading to unprecedented levels of mental health problems. The work that we do with YGAP looks at using food in one particular way to build stronger forms of community. We have 3 profitable social enterprises that enables us to run our programs around the world. Our program and our outcomes are focused on finding and enabling impact entrepreneurs. So we strongly believe in being entrepreneurs ourselves. One of our more recent social enterprises is Feast to Merit in Swan Street, Richmond. I want to tell you a quick story about this name, Feast to Merit, and how food can be such a transcending form of impact on communities. Feast to Merit comes from a wonderful community called Nagaland in northeast India. Nagans have been fighting for independence for centuries. It's on the border of Burma and India. It's quite high, it's a very primitive culture up in the mountains. It's strategically very important because it pierces out over into China. Neither the Burmese or the Chinese want to give up their entitlement to Nagaland. The border literally goes straight through Nagaland, and there's 42 Nagan Australians living in this country. Now what's happened, unfortunately, in 1948, Mahatma Gandhi promised independence to the Nagans, but was assassinated later that year. So they remain in a state of denial between India and Burma. There's only been a handful of Westerners that have actually been to Nagaland. One of them was a close advisor to our organisation, YGAP. And he returned with a wonderful story. As he was walking through Nagaland, the community elder stopped to tell him a story. Before doing so, he asked, "Why are there all these different coloured cloaks?" He said, "There's a red cloak, there's a green cloak, there's a blue cloak, but one cloak stood out. It was a golden cloak." And he asked the elder, "What does the golden cloak represent?" We went on to say, "Whoever goes through a Feast of Merit is bestowed the golden cloak." What's the Feast of Merit? Feast of Merit is a tradition, a convention in Nagan culture. Whenever you become the richest person in town, acquire a certain position of wealth, property, livestock, the convention is that you sell all your assets. You liquidate everything you own and you put a festival on for all the poor and disadvantaged people. That festival can last 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks, until you start again with nothing. You're given that golden cloak as a symbol and sign of respect that you start again with nothing, to rebuild your wealth. This simple belief that we come into this world with nothing, why do we have to leave with so much? This perpetual cycling of wealth. When we heard about that story, we were very moved, and knowing that as a social enterprise ourselves, this is the Nagaland sharing of the Feast to Merit. As a social enterprise ourselves, we wanted to really embody that story. Our third social enterprise, Feast to Merit, is wholly owned by YGAP. All the profit from Feast to Merit is injected into our impact. There's no private investors, secret shareholders, there's no dividends paid to directors. We all know from the passion and the love of food and those involved in food, it's a very marginal, fickle game, hospitality. Many try, few succeed. Why we have such a focus on hospitality is that passion of actually bringing perfect strangers together. The ability to put people at a table and dine over food. We have project showcase dinners where we literally let people buy tickets on a Monday night when we're closed once a month. And people don't choose where they're seated. They sit with perfect strangers on convivial dining tables and are forced to talk to new friends. We have a shared menu where literally you order and share everything with those on your table. Enables you to talk about the food and the produce. Importantly, talk about aspects of your life that you might not with random strangers too. We've served over 187,000 customers in the 20 months since we've been open, and have been turning over $5.2 million, but that's minimal compared to the impact we're having on people's lives that can come in and meet perfect strangers. I want to conclude with a very quick challenge. For those that next get on a train and worry about that stranger, stand in a lift and pull out their mobile phone, to have a think about what Feast to Merit you can put on. Who are the people in your lives? The next door neighbours, the distant relative, the old friends, or the perfect strangers that you can share your abundance with. You can share your wealth, you can share the simple things in your life with someone that's not your best friend. I left South Africa on a piece of wisdom from Winston. He sat back at the end of that conversation and simply went, Ubuntu. I am because we are. I think in a country like Australia, we have so much, and we get the I so right, but we're losing the we. We can take so much more out of Africa, focusing on that we, and I challenge you to enjoy that Feast of Merit wherever it is, at your home or in your community, with the next person you want to share your wealth with. Thank you.